What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Well, you know the old saying that whenever you get a motorcycle, you kind of want to put your personal touch on it and kind of make it look the way you want it to look. Well, in order to do that, you have to start changing out parts. And I was kind of forced into that with the Sportster because not long after I got the Sportster and kind of before I started YouTube, I actually had a wreck on the bike. Some of the parts that I had to change out were the actual oil tank. I had to put a new rear fender on there. The handlebars were bent. I broke the actual speedometer, and so the speedometer housing was all messed up. And so it did, a good bit of damage. Well, I was kind of in a slight bit of a rush wanting to get the bike back together because I wanted to get back to riding, because you kind of know how it is. You don't want to kind of have something sit there and just, let it overdo you. And so I kind of wanted to make sure that, hey, I'm not going to let this wreck stop me from riding. Well, like I said, I was kind of in a rush, and so some of the parts really didn't kind of go on quite like I want them to. Let me kind of show you what I'm talking about. One thing I forgot to mention when I was doing this is that this is a 95 Sportster, and so a lot of the OEM parts that you try to get are no longer available, and so you're kind of forced to use aftermarket parts. I kind of wanted to throw that in there because if I could have went with OEM parts, I probably would have went with OEM parts on some of these that I'm going to be talking about. So when I got the bike had like mini ape hangers on here, and I really didn't like the handlebars anyway, but I was given the Z-bars from somebody, and I really kind of like the way they look, and I kind of like the way they feel. But the problem is, in order to get them to where I can ride it, I had to put these little kind of curl back risers on there, and you see how much it moves off of the actual triple tree, which the original wires were like right here. Well, this speedometer is one I got, and you can see how short the wires were, and because of that, I end up having to have the actual connectors sitting right out here instead of inside the light bucket like they're supposed to be. It didn't really ever look right, but that's kind of the way I had to do it in order to get it to work. After a year and a half of riding, the actual speedometer quit working. Well, I thought maybe I got a bad speed sensor, and so I went and changed it out, but unfortunately it ended up being a bad speedometer itself. So I wanted to go ahead and order another one, and I got it in, and I'm like, okay, I want to leave it sitting on top of the triple tree, but for somehow or another I want to try to extend the wires. So because I had the old one still, I went in and tore it apart, looking about, trying to extend the wires. But the problem is they have some type of ring that they got pressed around there to kind of hold it together to keep outside elements, rain and everything else, from getting inside. And you have to kind of tear that ring apart in order to open it up. And so I knew that wasn't going to work. So I wanted to try to look at some different locations in order to mount it. Right here on top of the light bucket is one of the locations that I thought about. And you see I went and bought a little spacer to kind of bring it up a little bit, to kind of give the wires a little bit of a room underneath. And also the wires were kind of long enough to come inside the light bucket in order to make my connection with the plug. But the problem with that is that going down the road, I knew I was going to need this kind of tilted a little bit. And because this is some type of thin pot metal, when I went to bend the old one just a little bit in order to see if it would work, it actually broke in two on me. One of the locations that I thought about, and it's one that I kind of wanted to do originally when I first had the wreck, is put it there in the gas tank because I really like a clean dash. The problem with that is at the time I didn't have anything wrong with the gas tank, but since then I'd actually had the bike drop on the trailer twice, and so the gas tank was dented on both sides. And so that gave me another reason to actually put it back inside the actual gas tank. But in order to do that, I had to relocate a couple of things. I went because they have something called a quick bob gas tank that has your gauges and everything in the gas tank. And so I had bought already a coil and switch relocation kit, and let me kind of show you that one. So your coil and switch from the factory are mounted right here, but because of the size of the quick bob gas tank, you actually can't use it right here, and so that relocation kit relocates it somewhere in this area. But the one that I originally got, I never could figure out how to work, and so I found this bracket right here on Lowbrow Customs, and so I was able to get it, mount it, and I had to drill a hole right here in order for my actual VOES system on the other side for the throttle advance. Now the switch I've relocated right here, and with everything I had to do, I decided to go ahead and run all new wiring, and I got another reason why I ended up doing that. So I don't know if anybody noticed, but whenever I was actually going down the road and I would hit my brake, my display on my speedometer would actually quit working completely, and then when I let off the brake, it would come back on. And I really didn't understand what was going on, if there was something with the wiring of the speedometer, with it not working already, or what was going on. But whenever I was tearing everything apart, I actually noticed that the actual brake light was actually grounding out because it was bare wires. And then I got to looking at the book, and for some reason or another, the way they factory wired the bike, your brake light is tied in with the speedometer power, which doesn't make sense to me at all. And I wasn't really having any kind of fuses actually blow, but I don't really have fuses. What they have is these type of circuit breakers that would actually trip, and then when you let off of the short, it would actually come back. And so what I've done in the meantime is I've actually taken this completely out, and I've actually put an actual fuse panel in there, and I'm actually going to be separating all of the different circuits to where my speedometer and my tach and even the brake light are on completely separate circuits, and they're not tied together. So right here is where I'm mounting the actual fuse panel, and it's kind of in the same location that the factory was, but I end up having to order this angle aluminum in order to mount the fuse panel to this. And it's one of those where you also got to make sure that you got all the clearance you need in here, because you got your oil tank over there, the actual battery box is right here. And I actually did run into an issue where I had the actual starter relay located was actually in the way of mounting the actual oil tank. So circling kind of back around to the actual gas tank, is that one of the problems with the factory tank and some of the aftermarket tanks that I try to find is that they want the petcock to be on the left side, and I can't have it on the left side because of my actual coil pack. So I'm talking to a company that's supposed to offer a gas tank, and it's a fat bob gas tank, and I believe that it's going to be a petcock on the right hand side, but I'm not 100% sure on that, and they're supposed to be getting back to me. But if it is on the right hand side, the actual speedometer is the FL style speedometer, which is in the center of the actual gas tank. And what I liked about it is that the dash plate doesn't have a key, since I've already relocated the key. I don't want to have to do it a second time. And it doesn't have the lights in it, and I did find a speedometer with a tach built into it with the lights, and that I really like, that I may go with. But we shall see, depends all on the actual gas tank. I mean, you see some of the woes that I've been having as far as trying to customize this, and people like Weens Motor Co. and other custom light builders, my hat's off to them for being able to get something and kind of make sure everything works, and being able to design their own parts when they can't get something to work. It's just mind-blowing to me. And y'all let me know, do y'all have some of these customization woes whenever you try to customize something, that it just one thing leads to another, and then next thing you know, everything's just spiraling out of control? Y'all let me know that, because it made me feel a little better if I'm not the only one like that. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below. And until the next video, see ya.